Post-trip modifications to the 450 Marlin and other equipment. You always learn something every time you go on a road trip. Welcome to the Yukon and North 61. Here's my 450 Marlin. Some of my subscribers said, well, why don't you put a better set of sights on it? And the reason I went with this setup is I like putting a scope on this rifle during hunting season. And if I put on, I look through my little set of sights here. I do have the Ashley. Now I think it's called something else. It used to be Ashley sights. And that fits right on here, and that's a nice ghost ring. So I do have that, but then I have to pull off this mount rail and put it on, and it's a real pain. So I thought I'd go back to the open sights. So when I using the open sights there yesterday, 2 days ago, I noticed every time I looked at it, this folding sight was folded down. So even with a close range shooting, you want to have your sights. So I didn't like that at all. So looking through my old sight box here, I got a Skinner. That's for a BLR. That would also require you to replace the this mounting thing. But I did find this old Ashley backup sight, and it's been too high for everything I've tried it on. But I've put it on here, and because I put on a higher Ashley post, this is actually working. I can actually get this to sight in because I sighted in through this, the open sight and the front sight. I know this is going to be roughly sighted in, and I still can go down 2 revolutions. So I think that's going to work. So all I'm going to do is make sure this is sighted into that sight, and then I'll pull this sight off, and in my sight set I also have a blank. So I'm going to put this all together, and when I'm done, we'll come back. Step 1, take out the elevator. It just slips right out the front. Step 2, you got to drift it. Which way do you drift it? It ejects this way. I've always used it as a rule to take them out the way they eject. So the way the empties go. And I use this little drift hammer, the Wyoming sight drifter. And it just very lightly taps. And it's brass, so it's not going to damage the steel. Slicker than poop, hey? Goes in my sight drawer. And then you take your blank and you set it in. This blank is a bit loose, but I'll just tap it a little past. It'll be a little off center, but it'll be okay. Not the most beautiful job, but there it is. It's set in there. So I got the blank in. And if you take a real close-up, this is the Ashley Outdoors. I don't know if they still sell these, but it's in my parts kit. It's an emergency backup sight. And now when I'm ready to go hunting, I can take this off, put the scope on, and I'm ready to go. And now I have a ghost ring. Oh my goodness, it's a really good ghost ring. It's especially good because it's even closer to the eye. And if you come close again, you'll notice that there's lots of room for the hammer to work. And the hammer to go down. I've got that extension so I can still hammer it. 2 other modifications I've made to this Marlin. One of the atrocities is this crossbolt safety. I deactivate it by simply putting an O-ring. See the O-ring? There's a little slot there. That O-ring goes in there perfectly. And without a hammer, I can't take that off, or a screwdriver. That has been really pretty good. And then the other thing I did is I replaced the terrible buttstock or butt pad with a much softer butt pad. That original Marlin butt pad was like a piece of iron. They might as well put steel on it. So this is a decelerator pad. It was pre-fit, and like all pre-fit things, it's not a very artistic. the fit and finish is poor. But for a knockabout rifle, that's now got really good sights on it. And I'm really happy with those sights. And it can take a certain amount of abuse and not get knocked out of alignment. So I'll think about doing that, using that. Although I'm tempted just to put these on and be done with it. Because for a 200-yard rifle, do I need a scope? I don't need a scope. You know what? I'm putting this on. I've just decided. But this is a nice option to know that it does work if I want to change my mind. So I'll come back when it's got the actual Ashley sight on. It's a little solid, more solid. So I'm going to do that. So what do we got? We have the Ashley. I think it's called XS Sights or something now. Express Sights or XP Sights or something. It used to be Ashley. If you search for Ashley, you should still be able to find them. And that's a ghost ring back. And I'll just show you what that looks like. There, picture. Pretty good. Just came back from a little scouting trip. You always learn something. So I've really liked this MSR pod. I like MSR equipment. It's usually pretty well designed, but you know, even a good company sometimes comes up with a brain fart. So I forget what this is called. I'll put a link below as to what it is. It's called the Trail Mini Duo by MSR. But it's like their mini pot system, which was designed for use, I guess. You would think it would be designed with MSR stoves, and here's an MSR Pocket Rocket Deluxe, really good stove. My second favorite canister stove. And, you know, I use this in combination, and even at low heat, you got heat coming up the side of that pot, hitting this little ring, which allows you to lift it and use this as almost like a big cup. It expands, goes down, and starts to burn. It's the stupidest thing I've ever seen. Like, really, come on. MSR, what are you doing? This is not a good design. So, not a great pot. It's only an 8-ounce pot. So, this thing keeps going on. So, this is only an 8-ounce pot. So, it's a half a pound. So, it's been a nice little pot. I really like the size of it. Yeah, 7.95 ounces with the little lifter, which you always take with you. And then I got this Optimus Weekender pot that I thought too heavy, 10 ounces. But you know, it's got this thing. So here's Optimus, another a company I really like. What is this for? What in the world? Can you, a hat? What are you going to use this for? Is this for cooking eggs? Like, are you going to do gourmet cooking out there? No, you're boiling water mostly. So if I leave that at home, it's 7.46 ounces. And by a lucky happenstance, boom. Now I've got an 8.8 ounce stove. So I've got about 0.8 ounces more. And it fits this stove like crazy. It's just perfect. And it's got these fins. So these fins add a little bit of weight, but they reduce your boil times by 20%, which is the same as increasing your fuel efficiency by 20%, because you're burning just as hot for 20% less time. You get faster boil times. It's you can put 800 milliliters in here. You can put a liter of water in here. So it's a little low on capacity, but this, say hello to my new pot system. And this stuff goes in the experimental drawer. Shame on you, MSR. And this is what should be made right from the get-go. So I wouldn't suggest you buy 2 of those, but anyway, this is what we're going to do for our new ultralight set. One thing that doesn't need modification from this trip is this lovely Mystery Ranch 38. I just love the way it carries a load. I only had about 35 pounds with the rifle, but it really carried it well. It'll take about 3 days a trip, and beyond that it's too small. This beautiful wet wing as well. gives you a place for all your stuff and water, bear spray. Okay, that's actually called the wet rib, not the wet wing. The pop-up feature is this shelf goes up and down. You can fit it to your back perfectly, as well as this. There's lots of videos on it, but the way that load lifters work and this beautiful belt just hugs my hips. There was no soreness. It was just easy as pie. And this Frankenstud too, I really liked the way that it worked. It really held that rifle in there really, really well. So this was a really wonderful, the Pop-Up 38 by Mystery Ranch. I'm sold on it. It also has a meat shelf. So this bag flows away and you got a meat shelf. And it's rated to about 80 pounds. So it's a pretty sweet bag.
Bushwhacking.